Welcome to the Reality of Prayer, Part 3, Personal Proof.
Studies are good, but do you have any personal proof that prayer works?
Yes, I do, Random Voice of Questions, and thank you for leading into that next part where I give you a real-life example of where I received prayer and I've seen prayer work and miracles work in my own life. Now, when I was little, I had some warts on the top of my foot. Right? Yeah, no one likes having warts on them, even if they are more common than we like to admit. But there I was with warts on the top of my foot. When I finally showed some concern over them, my parents took me to see the pastor at the church, and they laid hands on my foot and prayed for me. And I remember it was my parents, my brother, the pastor, and somebody else was there, and I don't remember who that other person was. But I remember they laid hands on my foot and began to pray for the miraculous healing that God could and would perform. And just thinking back on that, as a kid, we are more likely to believe in things such as, how many of you believed in sin? Well, let me just say this real quick. If your kids are in the room and you want them to keep believing in this, get them out of the room. I'll wait a moment. Okay, moment's up. But how many of you believed in Santa Claus when you were a kid, right? We know he doesn't. It's not real. It's not a big, fat, jolly man in a red suit coming down your chimney leaving you gifts. But how many of us believed in that when we were a kid? Right? So this childlike faith was all that I needed to believe that I would be healed of these warts. And thinking back on it, it is kind of amazing at how cynical and disbelieving and faithless and negative we become as we grow up.
We're all born sinners, meaning we're all born with a selfish nature.
Yeah, that's right, Random Voice of Reason.
Yep. Most folk can't understand that this selfish nature will be cultivated and suppressed by them upbringings, such as ma and pa and friends and that education and them society and them what choose to associate with, so that folk achieve different levels of them sinful nature that folk choose to continue to cultivate or correct as they grow up. Yeah.
I would have to say you're both correct. That is true. We are all born with a selfish nature, and we choose throughout our life to either cultivate the selfish nature or correct it. And granted, we may receive influence from outside sources, such as where we choose to get our education, who we choose to associate and hang with, who we choose to, call friends, like I said, hang with, where society, culture, which we know is always changing. In one generation, what is considered right can be now considered wrong, and what was wrong is now considered right, because there's no firm foundation when it comes to culture and society. It's all just flip-flopping all the time. Look at what we're going through now. Nobody knows what gender they are. Nobody knows what to say without getting sued. Hold a door open for someone, and next thing you know, you're misogynistic and whatever. That's for another topic. But so we get to choose. It is still our choice based on our foundation, our standards, and if we choose to allow that selfishness and that negativity and hatred to grow, or if we're going to correct it. Anyway, as a child, I remember believing with all my heart that God would heal me when everyone prayed for me and with me. And like I said, like most people, as I grew up, based on where I got education, I'm sure, and who I chose to hang with, I lost some of that faith as I grew up, and some of that complete belief and trust somewhere along the way. And we have to find that and get that back. But then again, maybe that's why Jesus says in Matthew 17:20 that because you have so little faith, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, and some of us, that's all we have as we grow up, is the faith the size of a mustard seed. But we need to let that grow. But anyway, when they finished praying for me, they removed their hands and the warts were gone. Yeah, to this day, there have been no sign of those warts on the top of my foot. It was a miracle. It was a blessing. It was a work of prayer. It was a point in my life where I can boldly tell you, prayer is real, prayer does work, and miracles are real, and miracles do work. God works miracles. And so, like I said, I've seen prayer and miracles work in my own life. I've seen them work multiple times throughout my life. I've seen them work in other people's lives as well. And I'll say this again. As we get older, for some reason, we tend to become more and more suspicious about things. And we tend to follow that line and that lie of, I'll believe it when I see it. And sometimes even when we see it, and I've seen this a lot the last couple years really too, talking with people, is even when they say something, it doesn't even have to deal with prayer, but they say something, you show them the proof and the evidence, and even though they see it, they still don't believe it. So I don't know, but a lot of us tend to get to that, I'll believe it when I see it. But in my case, I not only saw it, I was a witness for it. I was living proof for it that prayer and miracles work. And this is something I had honestly forgotten for a long, long time. Because, as they say, out of sight, out of mind, right? So I probably should have said out of sight, out of mind. There we go. Now let's get that correct. But, and I sometimes wonder, how many things in our lives have we all forgotten from our past that we personally witnessed or were a part of that was great and a blessing, a miracle, and positive and hopeful and inspiring, that would help us regain our belief, our faith in God, our faith in mankind, our even just, maybe our faith in ourselves. That, faith in life, faith in whatever, hope, bring hope back. If we could just recall that and bring it back to our minds. But I guess that's why they say hindsight is 20/20, right? And maybe we should be looking back to those times to remember the positive instead of always trying to, find a negative or a flaw just to try to win an argument with someone or try to make us feel better about ourselves by dragging people down to our level of negativity or hate or anger or forgetfulness, because I'm sure there's positive and good things and blessings that have happened in our lives and things that would inspire us if we would just recall it. And like I said, you'll often find what you're looking for. So maybe we should look for those more often. Anyway, back to prayer. Prayer is a universal form of communication. It is a way for every religion, every faith, every person to communicate their thoughts, feelings, desires, wishes, etc. To some greater force. And like I said, I unashamedly say God, Yahweh, the great I am, the God of the Holy Bible. You can say what you want. Again, that's the great thing about America. Freedom of religion, freedom of belief. I'm not going to silence you for saying what you want to say, just like based on our God-given inalienable rights and the rights given to us in the Constitution. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of belief. I'm not going to silence you. I'm not going to cancel you. I'm not going to do anything like that to you, just like I would expect the same in return. So let me just say, yes, prayer does work. Like I said, I am living proof of this, as so many others are. And so, whether one still believes in prayer or that prayer works or is just a fantasy, again, I say look for the positive. Try to remember back to that inspirational times, those blessings, positive times in your life. And I think you'll see that prayer does work. And so, I'm excited to read and hear of other people's prayer stories. And so, leave comments if you have other podcast shows, other videos, books you've written where you talk about the miracles and prayers in your life, and you want, let's honor that. And leave comments and stuff, and I will try to get to it and look at them and read them and watch them, because I'm excited to hear your stories as well. And yes, I do pray that each one of you does have a blessed day. Thank you.